Okay, it's 5:30. I will call to order the Board of Trustees November meeting of the Bay County Library System. If we could all rise, please, to the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Eileen, can you take the roll, please?
John Carlin?
Here.
Sue Blondin?
Yes.
Ann Harris?
Here.
Quinn?
Here.
Barbara Schultz?
Here. Board Chairpersons Report. I first would like to thank Mark for coming tonight. Mark, Joe Lucian is the head of the reference for the Allison Ward Library here. He's going to tell us a little about what a reference librarian does and how hopefully the public can use more of your talents and maybe they're being used, maybe not. Mark, take the podium. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. And I'm Mark Lucian, Head of Reference Services here at the Allison Jacquard Library. I'm originally, my background would be, I'm originally from the Metro Detroit area. I received my library degree from Wayne State University in Detroit. Got my first library job at Detroit Public Library, the main library. Worked in the art and literature department. Not that I had a great art background, but just for the opening was. Luckily enough, found a position there. While there, I met my wife, and we, a couple of years, we moved up to Bay City, Michigan, where she was from. Originally, after moving here, I got a position with the Flint Public Library, which is a little bit of a commute, but it worked for a little while, for about a year and a half, until I was lucky enough to get a job here at the Bay County Library System at the old Bay City Branch Library as a reference librarian. So I've been here since 2001. Worked under Mary McMahon and Tom Birch, who was our branch manager at that time, and then he became our director, and then he left, and he became our director again. But anyway, eventually Mary McMahon retired about a year ago, and I received the position of head of reference. And I am still adjusting to that position. But it's an interesting challenge. I'm both a librarian and a supervisor, so that's a little bit different than just being a librarian, I guess. As far as just to refresh your memory of what we have up on the second floor in my department, of course we have the nonfiction collection, music CDs, DVDs, magazines, the local history and genealogy collection, the public computer stations, 42 of those. We also have the computer lab, which we have computer classes and genealogy classes held there. Basically quite a wide array of services up on the second floor, so it's kind of a challenge balancing all that and keeping that all straight. Of course, I spend a lot of my day at the reference desk helping people find library materials, helping them with their research, genealogy, local history, school projects, helping them find DVDs or music CDs, lots of different things, of course, helping with the computer issues that they have. We do have computer techs there, but we also help out in the computer capacity. And the rest of the time is spent as a supervisor. I have a little off-desk time, and I have to order materials for several collections, music CDs, ebooks, reference materials, of course. Also a member of, head of a couple committees, the ebooks committee and the electronic databases committee. Also a member of several other committees, the collection development committee, the processing committee, and I guess that's two other committees. I was on the website committee, and I was recently on the enterprise catalog committee, which is a short-term committee because that was basically a preparation for launching our new catalog, so I was a part of that. I guess I was told that you want to know why I became a librarian. I don't know if I have an exciting answer, but I always loved libraries as a child, wrote as a young, a teen, I used to ride my bike to the library every week and get materials, loved doing that, and I still do that. I live close enough that I can ride my bike. That's one of my hobbies, I guess, bicycling. But basically, I went to school in my undergrad. I ended up wanting to go into journalism, but then I decided I wasn't really, well, I enjoyed it, but something wasn't like clicking in that area, so I decided to go back to graduate school, and I got my library degree. And luckily enough to get employed right away. And enjoyed it ever since. Really had blessed to have a nice library career. I don't know if anybody has these specific questions or.
Sure. My question is, if somebody's going to do research.
Yes.
For anybody watching this, that's the person you want to go see if you are at all lost or need some help.
Okay.
What is the most rewarding part of your job, and what's the most challenging part, would you say?
Okay. Well, I mean, the most rewarding part would be helping the public in person, I would think. Helping somebody find that particular book they were looking for, helping them find the right materials for their research paper, or say they're looking for, doing their family tree, finding that elusive relative, that kind of thing. I guess the challenging part would be kind of balancing everything that's included. I have a wide variety of duties, and just keeping up with technology and all the changes going on in libraries, and making sure we're introducing everything that's the latest out there. Not that we have to make changes just to make for change's sake, but certainly there are a lot of exciting things that come out in recent years with technology, e-books. There's everything, digital magazines. We have a 3D printer now. There's all kinds of different new and exciting ideas for libraries. So just trying to keep up with everything, and that's kind of a challenge, I guess, because you have your basic duties, but you want to keep up on the technology. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Hi.
I don't
You're not going to ask me to spell anything, are you?
know. You said you're on the collections committee, right?
Collection development, yes.
Yeah. I don't know whether that makes you the right guy to answer this or not, but I'll give it a shot.
Possibly.
We had a fellow named Rick Luzak, last month. Member of the public addressed us,
Okay, yes.
who had a complaint about books disappeared that, not that he would check out, but that he would use in the library. So there wouldn't be much of a record if he picked it up and put it back as it was being used.
Yes, okay.
Is there some way that we can track that as so we know how much a book is being used and whether to weed it out or not? If it's not being checked out from the library?
Well, I mean, we do a visual check of reference materials often, as far as the librarians kind of make a note of, materials that are used quite a bit in the reference collection, which is, these are the books that don't check out from the library.
Right.
So but that particular, I guess he was talking about the nonfiction collection, which does check out. There's so many books being used, I mean, it'd be really difficult. The main way we tell if something's being used is, the checkout. I mean, really, it's hard to get a record. If he puts it back, we'd have to be monitoring every person that, pulled the book off a shelf, and I don't think that's really feasible to do. But as far as I mentioned to him, that might be one way for us to know that it's something that's wanted, is to check out the book, Certainly
Right.
take it home. It doesn't cost anything to check it out. So, I mean, certainly books are evaluated constantly, and the collection is evaluated constantly, and we want to make room for the materials that are being used and not leave things on the shelf that are not being used, gathering dust.
I often wonder, we have all kinds of magazine periodicals.
Yes, we do.
How do we pick which ones are those to keep and which to get rid of?
Okay. Well,
Because they have the same problem there, you don't know who's reading them, right?
right. Well, we do circulate magazines, but we also try and keep an eye on what we So that is one way we see which magazines check out back issues. That would be one indication.
Okay.
We kind of monitor what's popular as far as sales of magazines. You know, the more popular magazines, we try and have those. But
I
as
gotcha.
far as a lot of magazines have been going out of business. So that is an issue that's going on right now.
That makes it
Internet.
easier about that one for the next year.
Excuse me?
I said it's easier to decide not to take one that just went out of business.
Well, yeah, it's a self,
Yeah.
it takes care of itself, doesn't it?
Okay, I just-
Certainly, you know,
I know there are
for
scientific ways
replacement.
to do it, but I just wondered how you keep track of stuff that doesn't check out, as to how popular it is.
Right, well, we try and monitor that a little bit, but as far as, it's very difficult if somebody puts the book right back on the shelf, and I don't think that's something we could really monitor exactly, but checking out, circulation is one of the major ways. We also look at for content and for, as far as anything that's still up to date, in books at least. Hi.
Obviously, we have more volumes than titles.
Right.
Any idea as to how many titles we have in the Word Library?
Those numbers, I could certainly get those numbers, but you talking about the entire,
Yeah, just
all
curiosity.
items? Kevin,
Yeah, we
is
were,
it close to 100,000 maybe?
oh, more than that.
Oh, more than that, yeah.
No. It'd be several 100,000. We can certainly put that information in the next board packet.
Yeah, it
Right.
would be good
We
to
can
It
know.
fix
certainly would.
I'm
Thank
sorry, I
you.
don't have that number on the top of my head, but,
I did throw you a curve, sorry.
Yes.
Ever playing Stump the Mark?
Yeah. You had a question, or?
Well, I have a couple questions.
Okay.
Going back to the person that used that one particular
Yes.
set of books, that
Yes.
he expressed like he'd like to buy the set
Okay,
ahead of the book sale because he used them so much.
okay.
But if that set is removed, then, and it's an expensive set, it sounds like it's, well, if that set is removed, are you going to replace something similar?
Often we do, yes.
Do you plan on it?
Well,
You haven't thought about it, maybe?
I am not actually the person that does that particular section
Oh.
of collection development, but I can certainly,
Think about it?
yeah, well, we certainly, when we weed items, they are evaluated to see if there's something that could be a viable replacement for that item. I really don't even know the item you're talking about, I'm sorry.
Oh.
So that kind of puts me at a disadvantage at this point, but I believe it was some type of Bible
It was a
encyclopedia.
Bible, set of Bible books that would be helpful for him to,
Mhm.
I think it helped him with interpreting
Okay.
whatever he was studying.
Well, we certainly want to have that type of material, and I'm pretty sure we do have other materials in that similar vein on the shelf.
Yeah, he thought if they were in the used book sale, he'd have trouble finding them. And so he wanted to possibly buy them ahead of time.
Right.
And,
That comes up every
yeah,
once in a while, but that
it's
is not
hard
something
to,
we would do because that would put us in a situation where we'd have to be reserving items for people
yeah,
once we,
right.
you know.
Right.
So the logistics of that would be really difficult, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
On behalf of the board, I want to thank you for coming. And
Wait a minute,
enlightening us on
I have
what you
another
do.
question.
Oh, you have two
I
questions.
have two questions,
Oh,
that one
okay.
and another one.
Go ahead.
The other one was
Sure.
on processing. You're on the processing committee?
Yes.
How's that going since upgrades were made? Kevin, we put in those upgrades to help with computer usage and that, and so I'm wondering if the processing, when they process books, if it's smoother and they're not running into problems with stalling, you know, because they were having a problem with.
Right. Well, yes, I am on the committee, but I am not in the acquisitions department per se, so I really...
They didn't talk about that at all?
Well, possibly I might, we are working on a manual for processing procedures or standards. That is the current topic we're working on right now, but I'm not really sure. The computer upgrade, I guess I'm not really up to date on that. That would be Sally Hirschman certainly could answer your question. I could have her get in touch with you about that if you like.
Well, I was considering processing in with acquisitions. I was putting the two together.
Yeah, this is a committee that meets that from different departments that makes recommendations to the processing, or to acquisitions
Okay.
about different processing issues. So I don't know if that ever came up in a meeting I
Okay.
attended, so I don't remember that, sorry.
I thought it might be discussed.
Yeah, well, it might have been something in another meeting that I wasn't privy to, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But,
Mark, thank you for coming and enlightening us. That was a good job.
I hope so.
Learn more about your background and what you do. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, you're welcome.
The rest of my report, on behalf of the board, behalf of the administration, and all the employees of the Bay County Library System, I wish to extend a very happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. Also, I was reading the reports of the local branches of the library, and I came across something that I never heard of before. I wonder if any board, maybe you guys do, it's called Geo Caching. Anybody know what that is? I didn't, I had to look it up. Well, Geo Caching is when you take a little box or something, an object, and you hide it with GPS coordinates, longitude and latitude. And you can log on to a site, and you can register that, and you can go to find out where this geocaching is in your area, and it will give you directions to it. And when you find it, usually it's a box, very decorative, or it could be something hanging, and inside there's a logbook you sign, and sometimes there's little trinkets in there you can exchange with other, you know, put one in and take one out, or that kind of stuff. So apparently somebody at the Auburn branch has set up a geocacher, and it was originally outside, but I read it was dangerous, or it could be somebody, I don't know, maybe they put it in a tree or something, I don't know. But it's been removed, it's been moved into the inside of the building where it's safer, so something all new. You learn the old adage, you learn something new every day, there it was, geocaching. The other thing I'd like to report is this brand new, wonderful little volunteer, everybody see this in their packet? We had, since August, September, and October, we had 284 volunteer hours by, in the total within the system of volunteers who volunteered their hours, their time. My question, and this may be for those out there that watch this that want to know, how does one get in contact with the library in order to volunteer? So I'll let Trish or somebody tell us if anybody's interested in volunteering, how they can do that.
Sure, they can contact their local branch, or they can contact Word, whatever is most convenient, and the managing librarian will let them know that there's a form that they can fill out, and then that form goes to Eileen, who's the volunteer coordinator. Eileen keeps all of the volunteer forms at the business office, and then when the branches need a volunteer, they will call Eileen and say, next week we would like a volunteer for 3 hours at such and such program. We're expecting a lot of people and we need an extra body. Is there someone that you could send? So Eileen will go through her list and see who would match those parameters and give them a call and see if they would be able to work. It's just in its infancy at this point, but Eileen did have one this week that she called, and we're going to have them come to the first reindeer program in Auburn. So we're we're starting to get into it.
Can you get like high school credit, like hours, towards their community service, and things like that?
We do have students that come in and do that.
And
yes, we
is
welcome
that, does that go to like the counselors or something so that they know to send kids to
We
do
have
this?
not
You know what I mean?
had, I know, we've not had the conversations with the counselors about this new program, so that's
Okay.
something that we can certainly look into. But
Absolutely.
if they come in and ask,
Right.
we certainly have them, we
Okay,
can do that.
because that seems like a really
It's
good direction to
It's
go.
a great opportunity. Yeah. Thank you.
Anyway,
Francis.
thank you. First of all, thank you for anybody that
Good question.
volunteered. Very good job, and thank you guys
The
for
teachers have
executing.
to
This is
do
great.
volunteer credit too.
All right, minutes
In their evaluation.
of the October 28th board meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Is there any corrections, additions, deletions from the minutes anybody has seen? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. The bills payable, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Moved, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ann, you want to take us through these? Is there anything you found?
Everything is in order.
Everything's in order. Good. Anybody have any questions about any of the particular bills of Kevin? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the bills payable signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. We will take the financial report and the penal fine report, which you now have with you. Is there a motion to receive both the financial and the penal fine reports?
So moved.
Moved, is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Kevin, you want to take us through pages 12 to 15 and the penal fine?
Okay. Starting out on page, we'll start with 13, which is our revenue. Through the month of October, again, we're now just going to keep getting trickles of revenue in. For the month of October, we got $12,691 of revenue because pretty much all of our major revenue categories, we have that in hand already. So as we head into the last 2 months of the year, this will be normal, just be getting, penal fines will keep coming in along with our, any usage fees and or donations that people drop off. So again, we're heading into the end of the year, starting to finalize the 2016 budget. We'll be having a finance meeting hopefully week after Thanksgiving, and we'll be able to get that to the December board meeting. On the penal fine report, month of October came in at $42,482.86. So right now we are again doing good. So far we've got $366,000 collected with 2 more months to go. So if we hit 40,000 on each month, we should pretty much finish the way we did last year, about 440. So, and when we budget only 324,000, we're doing really good on penal fines. So that's helping us in the revenue area. So everything's coming in good on the revenue side. On the expense side, nothing really major to point out. Everything is coming in as anticipated. No areas of concern at this point. So that's basically it. I can answer any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you. All those in favor of receiving both the financial report and the penal fine report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Administration's report. Is there a motion to receive?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is seconded, and Rich?
Thank you. I wanted to report out on Booked for Lunch. We had a very successful session of Booked for Lunch. We had an average of 67 attendees each week. which is fantastic. It's in this room, and the room every week was very, very full. We were almost to capacity each week, so that was nice to see. And the presenters were very good, as always. Book for Lunch does return for the spring session in April, and the committee is working on that right now. Gift of reading, I wanted to do an update. Eileen actually gave me an updated update before we came in, and we've now collected over $2,500 and 162 books. And we are receiving more books this year than last year, so that's been fun to find those in the box every day and take care of those that way. New books or money can be donated at any branch, and the program ends December 5th. So if anyone has any extra dollars or any extra new good books that they'd like to donate for children, they can do that until December 5th. Credit cards, we began testing the credit cards in November. So Wirt is our test bed right now, and we have the Square that we're using for both swipe and chip. The one that we received is not working well, so we're waiting to get another one. But it is working in terms of swipe now. We had to maybe get a different one for the swipe, and we can key it in if we need to. So we are able to accept credit cards at this point and have been doing so pretty successfully for the past week or so after we ironed out a couple of the bugs. It's nice that they can get an electronic receipt, and the fact that we're able to accept them now I think is going to be a really nice opportunity for people. We'll expect that all of the branches will be up and running on credit cards by the first of the year, 2016. In November every year, the Valley Library Consortium does a purge of records, and those are either library records of patrons or batch deletions of books that we're getting rid of, or a wide variety of things. We took a look at our patron record database, and that had not been purged in several years. So we had that purge done, so people who have not used their library cards for more than 6 years were purged out of the database. So when you look at the statistics in the back of your packet, you'll notice that it is a much smaller number by about 15,000. But we'd like to clean that up and not have all of those patrons in the database if they've not used us for that length of time. If they do come back in, we'll certainly give them another card, but we do have to pay for every record that we have in the consortium, so there's really no use of carrying all of those. It's just a couple of cents per record, but it adds up year to year. So I wanted to note that we've made that change so you don't freak out about why we don't have as many patrons as we did. I did want to give a short project update for Battery Park. The new sidewalks are in, the old sidewalks are out. The road looks wonderful in front right now, and the city did a very nice job on the project. There was very little disruption to anything in the front, and I think it's going to look very good this spring. It still is not looking great right now because we're waiting for grass to come back and grow, but by the spring I think it'll look very nice. And we're expecting planting beds this spring, among other things, so we'll see how that goes. And then the other thing that I wanted to note is we did go up on Enterprise, which is our update to the catalog. We went up on that on Monday, and I wanted to take just a moment and show it to you so you can see what it looks like. Hopefully everything will be connected.
Is that over in front, the other lights?
Okay, nope. It'll go on
I know it takes a minute.
Oh,
there.
okay.
Is that good? Okay, so this is what you actually see from your home if you log into the catalog from our website. A couple of new things are right here, this little Buy It Now. So if you see this title and you say, oh, I would really like this for my personal library, if you click on Buy It Now, it will take you to Amazon, and you can purchase it through Amazon, and the library will receive a small portion of the sales. So that's a wonderful thing, we think. And then you can also just click on Find It in My Library, and that will tell you where it is. I'm just going to go right up in here, the search bar, and I'm going to look for, just for giggles, I'm going to look up Jimmy Buffett, because I like him. And he has books and CDs and videos, so that'll give you an idea of what things will look like. So when you actually search now, you'll see format, and I think Sue had asked about this before. You can actually search by specific CDs and format that way, which is nice. So if you're looking for just CDs by Jimmy Buffett, you can click on CDs and include that, and then it will just show the CDs. Or you can click on books and it will just show the books. What this also does, and this is new, prior to this, the ebooks were not shown in the catalog. You had to go specifically to the ebook section on the website and click in there. Now you can actually search them in the catalog, so they show up that way as well. So we probably will get a little more circulation on those because they're found in 2 different spots now. You can place a hold, which you could do before. Text this to me, this is new. If you click on that, you can put your phone number in, and the call number, where it's located in the library, will be texted to your phone. Oftentimes, when people are looking for an item, they won't write down the correct information where the item is located. They'll write down the ISBN, or they'll write down the copyright date, or they'll write down a number of things that really don't get them to where it's located. So this way you can text it directly to your phone, so you have it right there, and you can just walk up the stairs in the library if you'd like to and find it. And you don't have to find a pencil or whatever. You can just text it to yourself and you have it on your phone. And again, we have the Buy It Now on there, which is wonderful. You can, up in the corner here, we have it default set to everything, but you can look just at Bay County items, or you can look at items in each of the separate branches, so you can narrow it down as you choose. On the side here, there's a variety of, they call them facets, of different ways that you can search. So, similar idea to the old catalog, but it is, you can search on a much more granular level than you could in the old catalog. So that's kind of nice for people that really want to specify what they're looking for.
Can you search by genre? I didn't see that.
You can't just put in fiction or nonfiction, that sort of thing.
All right.
So,
Yeah.
but you could, for example, you could type in country music, and country music will show up both the nonfiction titles, and then you could narrow it down that way and say you want to exclude the CDs, you want to exclude the videos, etc. So you could kind of narrow it down that way. And then you can also sort by up here, and I tend to use this a lot. Publication date, newest, so you know what the newest item is if you are looking for something. You can sort it by title, you can sort it by author, whichever way you would like to do that. So there are a couple of new things on here, and I invite you to take a look at home when you get home and wander around in it and let us know what you think.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's up and running right now?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I forgot what you said.
No, that's okay. It went up Monday, not without a couple of snags, but it did come up.
Okay. You know, you said something about the flower beds being planted. Who's going to be doing that? Is there like a group in town that will do that? There are groups that will do that, I was just
Right.
going to say.
They are working with Jerry Samalski from Bay Landscaping, and I believe that he is doing the plan on that. I'm not sure exactly who's going to be doing the actual beds. I expect that they will be involved in it. We are not doing the actual beds ourselves. Don, do you have additional?
Well, both Paul Begic and Jerry Samalski have been working on it. Jerry has been a bit more active, but there are individuals who have already indicated they want to help take care of things, and there are a couple of groups, and I can't
think
name
of
them for you right now, but I know there are a couple of groups. And obviously, we're a little deep into the year, so probably the plantings won't come until spring. And the sidewalks on the north side of the center won't come till spring now either. But we're still aiming at rededication on Memorial Day. Whatever is completed by that time, we'll have that rededication.
Any other questions? Thank you. Can we vote on receiving that?
We have a motion and a second. We need to vote on this.
Okay, all those in favor of receiving administration report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Open to the public. Seeing none, we're moving right along. Correspondence, what do you think? Rick Beal wrote a nice note. He said, Georgianne at the sci-fi desk was very helpful in finding my selection today. That was on October the 22nd. And we received a letter from the Northern Bay Aranac retired school personnel. Dear librarian and staff, on behalf of the Northern Bay Aranac retired school personnel, enclosed is our 2015 donation for your branch library. Since our members are all involved in education, they strongly believe that libraries are important in our everyday lives and that their existence results in a more informed and engaged community. Thank you for providing this important service to citizens throughout the community. Sincerely, James Summerfield, President. And we thank you also. Thank you for your donation and your concern with the libraries. Is there any unfinished business from last month? I have none. Does anybody have any? Seeing none, let's go to committee reports. Excuse me, I skipped that. The Finance Committee. We should probably go ahead.
We didn't meet, but I gather from what Kevin says, we'll be meeting in November about the budget. So no report.
Is there any preliminary from the county on the property values, up, down, remain the same, flat, or which
We
one?
got those good flat.
All right. The Personnel Committee.
We have not met.
Okay. And unfinished business we covered. New business. We have before us two new policies, a recent revision of policies. First-
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I think it might be significant maybe to note that over the past 3 or 4 years, Tom Birch and Kevin Ayala did a very thorough job of reviewing our policies and procedures, and we did something, we acted on 1 or 2 nearly every meeting for a couple of years, but it is indicative of the fact that things move so quickly that it is important to stay on top of it by reviewing regularly, and that's what's happening here, I think. It isn't that these were overlooked earlier in the review, it was just a matter of getting on top of all of them. I was really pleased with the net result because some of the policies were significantly outdated, and they were really brought up to date very well.
Thank you, Don. I'm going to assume that when there is a update, it's because there's a need for it, that there's been incidents or stuff that has arisen that we need to change it. So let's go with the first of these, which is the debt collection and reimbursement policies and procedures. So I will either have Trish or Kevin walk us through this. Sure. Tell us what done.
And I think Don did a very nice lead-in this. I am not going to change a policy just to go through the policy handbook, because that's not my forte. And these did come out of discussion that we had at the last administrative council meeting. And the discussion came because there was a concern. One of the staff thought there could be a solution. It was brought to us, then we brought it to administrative council, had a discussion, and came up with a new policy. And I was really quite pleased with the way it worked, because in my mind, that's exactly how change should come, from staff that's actually doing it and making a suggestion and making some changes. The first policy that we have on page 19, the change that you'll notice is reimbursement for BCLS owned material that's been lost and paid for. Looking at the policy, it's relatively, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to reimburse someone for a lost item. You have the item out for 3 weeks, you can renew it for another 3 weeks. There's an overdue that goes out in another 2 weeks, then another notice 2 weeks after that, and then a final 2 weeks after that. So there's a total of about 12 weeks that you have to find the item. And then we were giving patrons another 3 months that if they found the item after that, they could bring it back and we would reimburse the money. They had to fill out a form, they had to, we had to decide whether or not it was coming out of petty cash. There was just a number of items that we had to do to reimburse that money. And what we do with non-BCLS owned material, once it's paid for, it's paid for. And this brings it in line that it's the same thing. So whether it's BCLS material or non-BCLS material, once you pay for it, and then it is yours to keep. So instead of having the opportunity for a patron to bring it back and have staff have to go through all of this for a refund, we thought that we would like to make it consistent on both of them.
Is that also because some of the stuff, once it's lost, we reorder it, we can't get our money back, but we...
That's another point. Sometimes we do replace, and in that case, we already have a replacement copy, and then the other copy is brought back, and we really don't need 2 copies. And you're right, we cannot then get our money back from the copy that we just purchased.
Okay. And that's really the only change is once it's paid for, it's paid for.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Any discussion on that?
It makes sense to me. I was
Makes
just wondering
sense.
whether you want to act on this.
Yeah,
now.
we'll act on each
Absolutely.
one separately. Would anybody have any other questions or input? Pretty logical. All those in favor of adopting the debt collection and reimbursement policy as changed procedures signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Wait, we need an approval. Let's back the
I
train.
move that we approve the proposed new debt collection and reimbursement policy and procedures changes.
Do we have a second to Mac's approval?
Second.
We have a second. I think we've had the discussion. We're gonna get that cart behind the horse. All right. Thank you, Mac. All those in favor of approving the debt collection and reimbursement policy and procedures signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That is adopted. Now, moving down to the loss and damage material policy, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Moved, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. All right, want to walk us through this, and then we'll have a discussion.
Sure. The reason this came about is one of the staff members, how do I start? It is much easier to get a book now than it ever was. And you can go online, you can get a book, you can go to Meijer and get a book, you can go to Sam's and get a book, you can go to a number of places and get a book, and it will most often be 40, 50, 60% off retail. When we purchase our books, we very often get them 40, 50, 60% off of retail. And patrons were bringing it up to us that I can bring in an item that I've paid $14 for, but you say it's $28, and, you know, is this really fair? And one of the circulation staff had said, you know, this really might be better to bring it in line with what patrons can really pay for books now, and what we can really pay for books now. And we also did not used to accept items when they were lost. We would not accept, Bob could not bring in a copy of the book that he lost for us to put on the shelf. We would charge him for that copy, and we would reorder a copy and put it on the shelf. When we had this discussion at Administrative Council a couple of weeks ago, it was obvious that not everybody was abiding by the current policy, for one thing, and that since it is easier to get books, both patrons and us, at a discounted price, that we'd like to bring things into line with the realities of costs and replacement, and make it easier for staff to say, Yes, and have an easier conversation with patrons. One of the things that we talked about early on was culture and trying to get a culture of independence and autonomy. And I think that the changes to this policy will do that. It will allow staff to have an easier conversation with the patron across the desk on bringing back an item or charging them for an item and giving them the leeway to charge the actual price of the item versus what it says it was. And then we also had to change a little bit of verbiage in this to match the debt collection and reimbursement policy and procedures. So that's a change in there as well. So basically, what this does is it allows staff to say, oh, I understand that you made a good faith effort. It says $28, how about we pay for half of it, you pay for half of it, and we'll call it good. And then it also allows the patron to feel good about it, allows the staff to feel good about it, and now they can also pay with a credit card, so it'll work out really well.
Is there a lot of lost or damage or theft or whatever? I mean, I don't really know.
There's a decent amount of loss. They get lost under your car seat. They get, your child takes it to school and it ends up in the school library instead of our library. There are a number of lost items. I can't tell you specifically how many. I would say
So
one
it's
or
something you deal with a lot, though, quite often.
once or twice a week, I would say.
Yeah, and I
at
guess I
least.
just didn't know
Yeah.
at all on that.
Yeah.
Is there any extra fee for the cost of reprocessing the book?
Oh, that's in there too. There used to be, there currently is a $5 processing fee. And again, that's something that wasn't necessarily being done. It said in the policy that that's what we would do, but very often it wasn't being done on a day-to-day basis.
Is it going to be done?
We were going to take it out
Oh.
of this because it wasn't being done, and
Did it cause a problem with the public?
I think the public didn't necessarily understand why we were doing it, and it was an easy one to say, okay, well then don't worry about that. And I think with some of the policies, I'd like to try and bring it in line with what staff will easily be able to do. I hate to impose policies on staff that they're not comfortable standing behind,
Mhm.
and I want them to know that I'm standing behind them if indeed they have to have the conversation.
There's a line in here, I guess I want to know the rationale. The acceptance of replacement material or lost items is up to the discretion of the managing librarian or staff.
Yes.
I understand that, but I think it also, when I read that, my first impression is that this librarian here forgives this librarian over here doesn't forgive this, and this librarian does it this way, and all of a sudden people talk and they, how come we're not consistent? I mean, I had to pay for this, they wouldn't take my book back, and the other one says, well, they did take it back. I just think that inherently, there could create a problem when you had, as opposed to this is how it would be handled. Now, and so I guess I'm looking for the rationale for that.
The rationale for that is, for example, you lose the latest John Grisham title. Instead of bringing us a hardcover copy of the latest John Grisham title, you bring in a paperback of the John Grisham title. That librarian has the discretion to say, no, I'm sorry, we're not going to accept the paperback, but we would accept the hardcover. Or you bring in a copy that you've already read and it's got smudges on it, the librarian has the discretion to say, no, I'm sorry, we're not going to accept that copy. And you're right, inherently, there will be judgment calls made that might not be consistent.
Thank you. The
You know-
explanation is good.
I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, go ahead.
It's just that it takes time to reprocess the book.
Mhm.
And it bothers me that there isn't a reprocessing fee and an expense. The labels are expensive. And it just seems there should be some compensation for that.
I mean,
I know you're not comfortable with it. And people don't understand how much time it takes and how much expense that is. It is expensive.
well, it is, and it's the time.
And it's
of
very
the staff.
time consuming.
Yes, yeah, it can be. It can be. And I'm not sure how to respond to that.
Well, I don't know, you know,
It seems to me that if you get into a lengthy discussion or a heated conversation, that costs money too. Plus, if there is some bad will created, if somebody finds out I had to pay it, another librarian didn't charge somebody else. I understand what you're saying, Ann, I think it makes sense, but all
You
things
think-
considered, I think we should go with the committee and the administrators who have considered this and decided to eliminate it.
yeah, if it causes bad will, I'd say eliminate it. And it could cause a lot of stress for the librarians that have to stand up front and be on the front lines with yeah. I agree with Mac.
If you get some surly guy like Bob, you know, why put
He's,
people through that?
Is this something a page can do, with processing a book, if they're taught? Or is that something that
It's done in acquisitions, and we do actually have pages that work in acquisitions. We have a co-op student in there right now, and a page, I think, in acquisitions both.
Right.
So some of it is being
the
done.
right training? Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if it's relevant or not, but in traffic, what they discovered was if there was a speed limit that was obviously too low, the average speed was quite a bit above it. If they raised the limit, then the average speed came down. And it was because people thought it was more reasonable. And I think that you're saying something of the same thing, that people are more likely, staff and public, more likely to comply with a rule that they feel is more reasonable.
And this does give them the discretion to do so.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, let's vote. All those in favor of approving the loss of damaged materials policy as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any dissenting votes? Motion carried. Next on the agenda is the annual board meeting schedule. We need a motion, then we need to approve it. Do I have a motion for that?
Nobody coming?
Hold on, we're gonna do it right now.
I make a motion in accordance with past practice and bylaws to schedule the 2015 annual board meeting of the Bay County Library Board of Trustees to occur on December 16, 2015, immediately following the regular December board meeting on December 16, 2015.
All right, that's the motion. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? For those that are new, I'll just explain it. In our regular December board meeting, we have a regular board meeting, and then we'll conclude that meeting. Then afterwards, we'll have a special meeting of the board, which we will decide our calendar for next year, and we will appoint our officers for the following year, and you all, the bookkeeping needs to be done to set us up for 2016. And I understand that the meetings for next year, the schedule will include at that time the various branches we're going to go to, so we'll have that ahead of time. Okay? So that's what we're voting on, to have that meeting to do that.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the motion as read signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We will meet. Open to the public, seeing none. Closed session, no need for that. Announcements, does any board member or administration have any announcements they'd like to make at this time? Seeing none, I think we're into poets' corner.
Okay, after the terrorist attacks in Paris last weekend, it occurred to me the easy out would just do La Marseillaise, the French national anthem. But my French is terrible, and all the English translations I found were not very poetic. And plus, the anthem itself was really kind of bloody, you know. So, and anyway, going through the research for that, I came across something else, which is not really poetry, but it appealed to me. The Dalai Lama, who, you know, the Buddhist monk from Tibet, who has been essentially, I think, at least 50 years ago, thrown out of Tibet and living in India because of the struggle for Tibet's autonomy from China. But he was being interviewed, and he asked about his response to the terrible attacks on Paris, and particularly about, he mentions about prayer, which I thought was his response was a very unusual one, I thought, and intriguing and worth considering coming from a cleric. He said, "The 20th century was a violent one, and more than 200 million people died due to wars and other conflicts. We now see a spillover of the previous century's bloodshed in this century. If we emphasize more on nonviolence and harmony, we can herald a new beginning. Unless we make serious attempts to achieve peace, we will continue to see a replay of the mayhem humanity experienced in the 20th century. People want to lead peaceful lives. The terrorists are short-sighted, and this is one of the causes of rampant suicide bombings. We cannot solve this problem only through prayers. I'm a Buddhist and I believe in praying, but humans have created this problem, and now we are asking God to solve it. It is illogical. God would say, solve it yourself, because you created it in the first place. We need a systematic approach to foster humanistic values of oneness and harmony. If we start doing it now, there is hope that this century will be different from the previous one. It is in everybody's interest, so let us work for peace within our families and society, and not expect help from God, Buddha, or the governments."
Thank you. Is there a motion then to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned at 6:27.